So joining us on the girls' table today is Saliwe Njolomole, who is a woman that has worked extensively with women advocacy issues. My name is Hlengiwe, Mtetwa, and this is the girls' table. Welcome, Sally, to the girls' table.
Thank you, Hlengiwe.
Right, first and foremost, I love your surname. It sounds, yeah.
It's actually a borrowed surname.
Borrowed surname.
Yes, I'm Chuma. I'm Makolite.
Makolite.
Njolomole is my husband's surname.
All right. Lovely. Thank you so much for joining us once again. So before we get into our issue for today, tell us a little bit about who Sally is.
Okay, Saliwe is a Tonga woman.
Mm-hmm.
I'm proud of my origins. She's a businesswoman. She's a wife, a mother to two lovely boys, a PR and communications person, and a woman empowerment fanatic.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I always say.
I like that you say fanatic because as women we always try to hide our love for women's issues because we're going to be called fanatics, but you're out here being a fanatic.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So I take joy and pride in issues that bring about development, that bring about emancipation for women.
Mm-hmm.
A world where women are in total control and a world where women are able to occupy their space. That's my
If some women heard you saying total control, they'll be trouble out in here. So where do you think you get your love for women issues? Have you always been about women, or is it a revelation that came to you as you worked with women?
I would think because the first 18 years of my life was very raw, and I mean deep raw.
Yeah.
And it is part of probably the inspiration came from part of my growing up. And as I grew up and as I also began to find my identity, I just decided I felt this need, I felt this drive in thinking about what women can do to make sure they empower themselves, to make sure they contribute towards society and make a society a better place to live.
Okay.
I think that's my drive basically around that area.
So what women empowerment initiatives have you been involved in so far?
Yeah, the past 3 years I've been reigning as the National Secretary for Affirmative Action Women's Desk at the national level, and I've been working with all the 10 provinces around the country. And for me it was interesting because I was able to see diversity in terms of culture, in terms of what women are doing in different tribes and different provinces. And we have had different programs and projects that we've been able to initiate at different provinces and with different women and showing their interest in what they want to involve themselves with.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So what is the crux, what is the main aim of the Affirmative Action Women's Desk? Okay. Like at its most basic, if you could put it in your own words, what is the aim, what is the goal?
Affirmative Action Group on itself was more of a male-dominated group. If you look from its inception about a couple of decades ago, by that time the guys in the group were pushing issues of black empowerment. But it is now that we no longer talk about black empowerment, but we talk about empowerment for people of Zimbabwe. And it is until 3 years back that the presidium of the Affirmative Action Group decided to create a women's desk, making sure that the organization was in line with issues to do with gender equity and equality, and hence to make sure the desk was created to talk about or to create opportunities for women. It's kind of more of opening up opportunities for people for empowerment, and this was also what we were pushing for the desk for, and these are the things that we've been doing.
So do you agree though that at the core or at the background of women empowerment is always a man? Like it's never a woman that is creating an organization or creating an opportunity for women to be empowered, but it's always like there's a man behind women empowerment or affirmative action, so to speak, because you say the AAG was male dominated and then the men decided that there needed to be an angle for women. So do you agree therefore that usually, more often than not, men are seemingly the drivers of women empowerment more than we are?
Hlengiwe, I wouldn't want to take it that way.
Yeah.
You know why? I would want to think our society, I've said already, AAG has been there from a couple of decades ago. And if you look like 20, 30 years back, you wouldn't really expect women to be on the forefront. Yes, we had groups by that time, but it was still women didn't have that push, didn't have that, should I say right? Maybe right is a bit strong, but women didn't have that opportunity to be had. Remember, we come from a society, we have customs, we have traditions, we've got practices that is expected of a black woman, of a Zimbabwean woman. And at that particular time, for women to be able to come out and begin to talk, I would take from the times of our mothers, they wouldn't really do much. Yes, we have had women that were able to stand up, but you'd see that the support that came from other women were not as it is now. But if you look at our generation today, we are inspired in our thoughts each and every time because of things that are happening around the world. We have come of age where we are able to learn through the internet, and through these times we are able to know what is happening around issues to do with women. And I think it is now that women support each other. Definitely, women support each other. And we have had initiatives that have been brought by women and that have no inspiration of men whatsoever. But we cannot, the line is so slim where we can say women can do things on themselves and there is not that inspiration of men. These two sexes, they work together. I wouldn't want, there is a Njolomole at home. And for me to be here, it means I had to also let him, there is something that we are going to be talking about women. So we can't really draw a line and say men are the one that probably initiate. Yes, for AAG, they had to be men that started this, but in that same organization, there were also women. But now we are saying this desk is now fully functioning in operation to make sure it serves issues to do with women. By women. But we had women that were in the affirmative action group. We have had amazing women that have done well in society from affirmative action. But we are saying now, if we create a full desk for women, we have issues of women being elaborated further. Yes.
All right, so maybe just to put you on the spot one more time, a lot of feminist organizations, affirmative action, proportional representation initiatives have also been termed to be driven by men. Fine, let's say they are initiated by men. Does that therefore take away from the work that these organizations are doing? Are we saying women are not necessarily being empowered because these initiatives are headed or steered by men? Does it take away from the work that these groupings are doing?
I wouldn't think so also, because still in our society I'm saying they are men that are feminists. I like the way you brought it. They are men that are feminists. They are men that actually believe and are actually drivers of issues to do with women empowerment. So if we have such men collaborate with women, definitely I think it's a society where the credit should also be given to women, because for that project or for that initiative to move forward, it is actually said to be for women. And we have women that are stepping in, we have women that then takes up the initiative and push it further. So we have women that we have men that have remarkably done well in terms of being associated with issues to do with women empowerment, and we give credit to them. And I would like to say this is recommendable, because they open the eyes of the other fellow men to say they are actually men that are supporting issues to do with women empowerment.
All right, so you work a lot, or you deal a lot with issues of advocacy when it comes to women. What exactly is advocacy, and what are you advocating for?
Advocacy has to do with the public support of an initiative, of a policy, of a practice. Remember, I would always want to say, going back to society, we still have that society limitation on women. And it's not all women that are able to get the drive and to get themselves on their feet and start doing things for themselves. We all have different opportunities, and advocacy becomes that word, becomes that powerful awareness campaign, what I say, in making sure the word of women empowerment, or the word of women development, the word of women emancipation gets to every woman. Remember I said in the beginning, we look forward to a world where women are taught totally emancipated.
Mhm.
And you will not believe it, Hlengiwe, that there are women today that are still in serious bondage, in marital issues. We have women that are educated and have their degrees, their doctorate shelved in some wardrobe because their husband do not allow them to go to work. So for advocates, then become that reach out word to make sure one woman, through a newspaper, through some media like we're doing now, can get such a word to say, oh really, is this what is happening now? Can really women be able to stand up for themselves? Because take it or leave it, the issues to do with lack of freedom for women is happening in different societies. We are at different societal levels, and these issues somehow, somewhere, they are actually discouraging women in making sure they are able to do things for themselves.
All right, so maybe to elaborate on the issue of advocacy, are you reaching out to women in your advocacy, or are you saying you are representing women by reaching out to institutions, organizations that are making decisions that affect women? Because I'm seeing a situation where women are being educated, they are being empowered in everything, but there are structures that are in place that are not pro-women. Are you doing anything to reach out and to influence the decisions of those institutions, government, non-governmental organizations, CSOs, and so forth? So in your advocacy, who exactly are you reaching out to, and whose decisions are you trying to influence?
In our advocacy, we are talking about equal opportunities, not necessarily for men and women, but equal opportunities among women.
Mm-hmm.
If you are a doctor today, and there is a peasant farmer somewhere in Binga there, your rights and their rights should be equal. Where you are able to enter an office, be served, be it you're looking for land, be it you're looking for whatsoever in terms of empowerment, that woman also should be able, right there in the raw area, to be able to access whatever is accessible for them in Zimbabwe. So when we talk about these advocates, we are talking about to say, you know what, women, there are issues. We are on a 50-50 scale now. If you want to be in politics, what is stopping you? These are the things that we're pushing. If you have to be in leadership, what is stopping you? So it is these types of campaigns that revives, that gives energy back to women to say, if she can do it, then I can also do it. But if we keep quiet, some other people do not get information. Information should be able to reach out to every corners of the country and making sure everyone, whoever has a decision to get either into politics or get into leadership or have a right to education, they are able to get these opportunities. And with these advocates, we are talking about a lot of rights. Rights to water and sanitation itself, rights to education, rights to human rights. All these things are important for a woman. And when we get opportunities ourselves, we are getting it. For me and you right now, we have got exposure in knowing about information, what is happening around. But there are other people that do not get this information. So these are the issues that we address, these are the issues that we speak at different provincial levels.
All right, so you speak about education, you speak about health issues. How do you think, as the AAG Women's Desk, how successful do you think you have been in terms of advocating for these issues that you're talking about? Because it's one thing to speak about it, and it's one thing to do it on the ground. So how successful do you think you guys are in terms of advocating for women's issues?
I believe every woman has got an inspiration, but sometimes they just lack some network. And Affirmative Action Women's Desk becomes as a platform. Remember, we said it's not us getting into a society and saying this is what we have brought for you. No. We are getting into a society that has got women that have got dreams already, women that have got inspirations already. But it is about making sure these women come together in making sure they bring in something that is sustainable for themselves. If you talk to individual women, you can't do much. But if you talk to a group of women in different communities, they are able to impact themselves and they are able to impact their communities. So what basically we do is we have, for example, in Mashonaland West, where we visited Mtetwa, we had women that were all interested into agriculture. But there is this thing where they're saying, we haven't got land, we haven't got water, but farming is not always about having a big land. And I remember when we went to Mtetwa, we had a school in that community that said, you know what, we can partner with the women of Affirmative Action Women's Desk. They have actually a very big land, they had a borehole. And we had women that started a project on that piece of land. Through that work that they are doing, you have other women coming in, and probably through different stakeholders that would want actually to work with those women. Women have got energy, that's one thing you should know. But they lack sometimes the platform that we are talking about. The more platforms are created for women, women, I tell you, they can run. They can make things happen for themselves.
All right. So I think one of the key areas of advocacy is the political emancipation of women and including them in political decision-making structures. Do you interact a lot with women in the political sphere?
Yes, I've got a couple of networks. Yes, I've got actually one lady, I won't mention their name. They actually are an MP now, and they're actually doing very well. They're actually doing very well, and they become an inspiration for us also. When you see someone that you know as young as our age being a member of parliament, you get excited and you say, you know that our needs are addressed. It is actually a movement that us as women, we should remove that thing that comes with politics. The moment you say you want to get into politics, people just see this woman that is uncultured, this woman that is, getting into something that is not right. But politics is meant for us actually women. We are the ones with a lot of issues that needs to be addressed. So the more women take up these political offices, the better for us and the better for our children.
Right.
So it is actually a good initiative to make sure women get into politics.
Do you think women in politics, those that have managed to break through the glass ceiling and get those positions in politics, do you think they're doing enough to advocate for women's issues from the position that they're at? Because a lot of women have been accused of being self-centered and self-serving. Once you're in that position, you're pushing your own agenda. Do you agree, or do you think women in politics are doing enough to advocate for women's issues in the positions that they have?
I don't think women are self-centered. Yes, to a certain extent. But a nature of a woman is one that thinks beyond themselves. They think beyond their family, they think beyond their community, because they think of generations to come. They think when they're in that office, they're carrying this whole load of women, issues to do with women. And remember, we are saying we are coming from a society where we were infringed, and as we are sub-office, there is this energy that you just want to make sure the male counterpart are able to see that women can actually produce results. So it is not like getting into an office and, here I am, I'm an MP. There is a whole lot that goes through the minds of those people, because they have to set the pace. They have to make sure they are role models. They have to make sure they cover as much ground as possible. Yes, to a certain extent, people have got individual characteristics, but I would want to think women are excellers. Women just want things to happen. And to answer the other part of your question, I would think also the world is not yet fully ready in making sure women get into politics. So I would assume as they enter into these offices, as they assume these offices, there is a lot of stumbling and there is a lot of hindrances in making sure they push their main agendas. Because remember, there are men that are dominating already in that sphere, and for them just to get in there and run and make things happen, it might take a while. Society still has to learn. Remember, this is change. So it will take a while for the men to understand that women are politicians and women are here to stay in politics.
All right. So there's a statement that says all issues are women's issues. All issues are women's issues. What are your thoughts on this sentiment?
In a way, yes, because women are the majority of citizens in the world, and one or the other, be it a man's issue, it will end up being a woman's issue, because we live in the same society. And one or the other, you look even into communities. When men are affected, women are affected. At the end of the day, who is more affected becomes the woman. If you look even into people that are married today, if your husband is in trouble, you are in trouble as well. If your brother is in trouble as a woman, you're also affected. I think also it comes with the nature to say women are the ones that have a lot of more issues, and they're the ones that are touched more in whatever societal issues that we go through.
So earlier we spoke about how, a lot of women empowerment initiatives have been accused of being male-driven. Do you think men actually should advocate for women's issues, or do you think it is the place of women to advocate for all things women? Do you think men have a place in women empowerment issues and women advocacy issues, especially looking at how, as a woman, you understand the issues of women? So how could the men possibly understand what you need and what issues need to be addressed? So do you think men have a place in women's advocacy issues?
I think we've come to an era where, like I said earlier on, we cannot separate ourselves. You know, these two sexes cannot separate. We cannot separate each other. We are coming to an era now where men should understand that women have come to occupy their rightful space. Because for me, I do not want to be apologetic. It is, we were kind of veiled, and it is now like the unveiling to say, here we are now. Because we have had our ground, we have had our space being occupied by these men. So men should just understand that this world, for it to move, the world today is in a lot of turmoil, is in a lot of anguish, because a lot of healing has to come from women. If you look even into governments today that have women that are running critical issues, you see a lot of change, you see a lot of advantages to humanity. So I think men, yes, they should step in and make sure they support the women. We are looking forward to a world where men begin to walk side by side, begin to work in collaboration with women in making sure that communities are developed. We cannot say because these are issues to do with women, therefore women should run their issues. That becomes a selfish in a way. So men should begin now to accept that we have our counterparts coming to occupy their space. How then can we work together as society in making sure that whatever women want to achieve, because it's not only going to enhance the livelihoods of women only, but it's also going to enhance and reinforce the lives of all humanity in the world. So one or the other, men and women have to work together peacefully and support each other in making sure the world is a better place to be.
All right. So maybe to come back to the advocacy work that you do you think society understands what advocacy is? Do you think women understand what advocacy is? Or do you think it's just a word that is constantly thrown about, but society doesn't really understand what it is and also its importance in terms of driving the empowerment of women?
The world is for learning. The world is for learning, that's how I would say it, because if something is started today, you do not expect results to come like tomorrow. Definitely there has to be a time period. Definitely there has to be some work. Sometimes the work that is being done is not accepted by society, but you know what? We do not stop. Because definitely a decade or so, things will begin to change. If you look even at the pioneers of the gender equity and equality policy, it wasn't easy at first. For it to be able to pass at the end of the day, there are people that fought through night and day to make sure this comes to pass. And I would want to say advocacy, yes, we continue to speak. I'll say we'll continue to speak. Because if we keep quiet now, it's still early days. We have our generation, our young girls that are coming up. We have children that are young girls that are coming up, and they need to get into a society that us as young women, us as mothers, have done the work to make sure as they get into the world that we have worked for, they are able to see the fruits and they are able to push the button into the next young girls that are coming in these generations.
All right. What's the best case scenario? What do you think needs to happen for advocacy to bring about change, sustainable change, not just change immediately, but also in the long run? What do you think needs to happen? As somebody who's been in the field of advocacy for a while, what needs to happen for advocacy to be successful in bringing about change?
We still have women that are hesitant in supporting issues to do with women development. We have women that have become comfortable in their lives that are being run by men. That is very dangerous. And I would want to encourage women to say, you know what, there is no harm to begin to speak about issues to do with women empowerment. Because, like I said, the society labels a woman that starts to talk about issues to do with women empowerment or women emancipation as that thing that brings chaos in the home, is that thing that brings about infringements on our customs and ethos and our values, but not necessarily so. There are practices that have been imposed on women that are not good, that are not even contributing anything towards the development of our society. These are things that we need to rubbish off. Why can we not choose practices that brings about development? As much as we want to preserve our cultures, as much as we want to make sure our cultures lives to the next legacies, but issues to do with women emancipation and issues to do with women empowerment should be spoken about. And we should continue to speak about them to make sure until men begin to accept that, you know what, it is actually no harm in speaking about these issues.
So you talk about speaking about issues and conversation at the core of, advocacy and the empowerment of women. You actually have a show called Emancipation with Sally. Tell us a little bit about that.
Okay. Emancipation with Sally is basically a motivational talk show with the Girls Have Voices. It's about a 16-episode series. We talk about different issues from different angles to do with women emancipation. We talk about women freedom from within yourself as a woman. We speak about life goals. We speak about the importance of life goals on I as a woman being able to know what I want in life, the ability to be able to give myself an identity. Because for that man to label you, it means you do not yourself have an identity. So we speak about issues to do with change, how sometimes change is uncomfortable when we say, you know what, I want to refuse this status quo. I want to be there. That transition period, we speak about them. How do we encourage someone to say, is it because I want to advance myself in education? Is it because I want to advance my career? What is stopping you? So we speak all things that talks about women in leadership. We also speak about issues to do with women in politics. Are real women good leaders? And where are we lacking? So it's an all-round series, and it's actually very interesting because it comes from the heart. It comes from some experiences that I myself went through, and being able to identify myself and being able to know the road in which I am traveling and being able to understand my purpose here on earth. So it's basically a show that talks about freedom for women from the male counterparts and from within myself, because freedom starts with an individual from the inside.
Maybe just to follow up on Emancipation with Sally, how are women receiving your talk show, and how, are they able to converse about the issues that you bring about? Because some of the issues that I've encountered is where you bring women to talk about issues that are affecting us, but they're afraid to talk about them, or they're intimidated to talk about them one way or the other. So you find women not being truthful about their situations, not being truthful about their experiences, and not being truthful about what they want for themselves for one reason or the other. So from your experiences and the women that you've encountered on your talk show, as women, are we at a level where we're able to freely and truthfully speak about issues that are affecting us and what we need to do to change those issues?
I think freedom for me is a journey. Freedom is not oneself. And for one to say I have total freedom is because we have gone through some kind of change. Yes, we still have women that have that fear to say, you know what, if I speak this way, like you say, there is that labeling in society. But then we have those that are forthcoming and say, you know, this is the truth. And we have someone that's saying, actually, this is motivating. You have someone, probably you are speaking a word to talk about education, and someone says, you know what, I've been thinking so hard about doing this. I think this is the direction in which I should go. There's something that comes with motivational talk. You speak to someone. You might not know. You think you're just talking to yourself, but you'll be surprised on how many people you're going to touch through your talk. So when we speak about these things, we are not expecting an instant turnaround, but we know that word remains there. One or the other, you'd remember, and you'd remember those words that are spoken. So for us, this journey we are talking about, it's not an instant thing. It's not a now thing. It can be now, it can be tomorrow, it can be the next 5 years, but definitely someone is in that shape.
All right, so as we wrap up, a friend of mine always says, women are the gatekeepers of everything that is wrong with our society. Patriarchy, gender-based violence, even in the workplace. Sometimes we prefer to have male bosses over female bosses because of sometimes, the way women treat each other at the workplace. Do you agree that more often than not, women are at the core of what's wrong with women's issues, are the gatekeepers of the things that are wrong when it comes to women issues in our society? Do you agree?
To a certain extent, yes, I would want to agree. For the first time in our show. Yes, I would want to agree but I will not blame those women. Mm-hmm. I'll push it back to society. Remember, we are, society, it's something very strong. It's something that touches our minds, it's something that touches our brain. from the way we were brought up, we were told that a boss can only be a man, remember?
Mhm.
And the moment we see a woman boss, even women ourselves, we feel like they're incapable.
Mhm.
You understand? But like we are saying now, as we begin to speak these things, that's when now I'm saying, as these women assume these offices of leadership, they have a lot on their head because they have to prove a point. We are in a society where we are saying, okay, we are watching what you're going to do. So as you assume that office, women work so hard. Women have got targets for themselves. Women want to showcase that, yes, they can do it. So, yes, at a certain level, we have women that actually say, a woman cannot really do much as my boss. We have women that fight other women. But I would believe that as we move into this movement, as we continue to speak about these things, we will get to that level where, as women, we can begin to appreciate other women that are in leadership. We will not blame the women. It is the society that is actually put them in that state. We are still colonized, eh? We are still colonized by the societal values and issues that were imposed on us. But with moving of time and with continually speaking, with continually getting into these initiatives, women will get to a level where they understand that women are actually more sharp.
Mhm.
And they are, in their nature, they are incubators. And whatever they imbibe or whatever they want to achieve, they make sure they set their core on it. So,
Thank you so much, Sally, for those words and for joining us. I don't know, do you have any last words that you want to leave for our listeners relating to the conversation that we're having today, especially on advocacy issues and their importance in driving women issues?
I want to say women are beautiful. It doesn't matter their background. When they set up their goals, they make sure they achieve. And in terms of advocacy, let's do it, women. The space has been created for us. Let's not give the men that time to begin to speak, to say, here you are, where are you now? The space has been created for you. That space, I would still want to believe it's void, and we have to step in and make sure things begin to happen.
Well, you've heard from Sally, the space has been created for us and we have to step in and do what we need to do. And I think at the core of it is really having conversations about the issues that affect us and doing what we need to do to bring a change. That is it for this week's episode of The Girls Table.